Okay, so in this video what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and I'm going to teach you about do loops, and we're going to go through this code here. You can access the code in the video link. It has basically what's going on. So you do, and you say while expression. And this is a simple example. This would be in the console. We're not going to do it in the console. We're going to do it visually. It makes it easier to see. So what I want you to do is go ahead and open up NetBeans and create an interface that looks like this. So this is called the text area, and a text area you could find right here, somewhere, right there. And this is just a button, right? This is the text area, and this is a button. So after you have these two things in, go ahead and open up the button. And what we're going to do is we'll go ahead and retype this code. We are going to go ahead and just kind of get rid of that. And we're going to say do int I, we're going to say it equals 0. And we're going to do while int I is less than 10. So what's going to happen is this loop here, this code here, this code will execute while I is less than 10. So if we don't increment this code forever, the loop will go forever. So the first thing we want to do is increment I. Or you could do it later. It actually doesn't really matter. Let's go ahead and do it later. Let's go ahead and print out what we have now. So what we're going to do, string current text is going to equal this dot jtextArea dot getText. So what this does, this will save the current text to a string. Okay. Now we're going to do this. We're going to say this dot jtextArea dot setText, and we want to say, well, put the current text in there and put an I in there and add a new line character. So this is called an escape sequence. This will automatically add a new line to the jtextArea. If we leave this out, let's go ahead and leave this out for now. Now we have to do the most important part. We're going to put I++. So what this does, increases I by 1. This statement is equivalent to I equals I plus 1. They're equivalent. It's just easier to write. You could write I++, plus I. There's a little bit of a difference there, which is not necessary to know right now. Just know one will increment it prior and one will increment it later. It's not necessary to know right now. So let's go ahead and run this. And we get 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Cool. The only thing is we don't have a new line. We don't have a space. So right up here we're going to put plus. And let's go ahead and run it again. So this right here, you're going to see what this does. Puts in a space. That's kind of important, right? And we could do something cool if you want. You could do like current text plus, we could say I equals plus I. So this will look a little nicer. Let's go ahead and run it. I equals 0, I equals 1. So this becomes nice when you're debugging. So that's the way it goes. It's basically all there is to it. Now if you wanted the loop to go the other way, start out at, let's say, 10 and go to 0. We're going to say while it's less than while I is greater than 0. So we're going to start out 10. This loop's going to go while I is greater than 10. So we're going to have to go ahead and say minus minus. And now the statement is equivalent to I equals I minus 1. So let's go ahead and run this thing now. Okay, cool. Now you might say, well, I want to see 0. So what do I do if I want to see 0? I put greater than or equal to 0. So if we go ahead and run it. So now we get our 0. Okay. So this is how we decrement. This thing right here, this structure, this is called a counter. Okay, we call this a counter. So you might want to put a notation in. I equals I plus 1, or I plus plus, or I equals I plus 5, whatever it is. These are counters. Let's go ahead and, instead of going down by 1, let's decrement by like 10. So I'm going to say I equals I minus, not 10, 3. Let's go ahead and run this. So now we say 10, 7, 4, 1, because we're decrementing, we're counting by minus 3. Okay, so this is a counter. We're going to go back to the increasing here. And I'm going to do something now called an accumulator. So an accumulator is this. We're going to say, up here, we're going to say int sum equals 0. And now we're going to say sum equals sum plus I. So let's go ahead and we're going to do another text area to show you how sum is going to work. Where are we? Design. Let's go ahead and do this. Move this over, make it skinnier. I'm going to get another text area. So this is kind of like a little bit of debugging we're going to do here. It's not real debugging, it's sort of fake debugging. Okay, let's go ahead and do this. And let's go ahead and, whoops, and say this. We're going to say str string current text2 is going to equal this dot jtextArea2 dot getText. So I'm doing the same thing I did up there. Okay, and I'm going to say this dot jtextArea1, sorry, jtextArea2 dot setText. So we're going to say current text2 plus sum equals plus sum plus, remember the escape character, so we get a space. So now we can see what the sum is as we go. Okay, this is kind of cool. So we're going to just take these two lines of code here actually, and we're going to put them up here. We're going to put them right there. Okay. So I'm just going to get rid of this. And I'm going to say this is an accumulator. And let's go ahead and see how all this stuff kind of works here. Okay, now I got an infinite loop. Why did I get an infinite loop? Let's see. Okay, the reason why I got an infinite loop, I said sum equals 0 and do while sum is greater than or equal to 0. So if I start at 0 and I increase it by 1, it'll always be greater than 0. We want to go till we're less than 10. So by accident, I create an infinite loop. Don't do that when you code. Okay, so let's go ahead and run this now. Okay, so when I is 0, sum is 0. When I is 1, sum is 1. And when I is 2, that's 2 plus 1, we get 3. When I is 3, the sum was already 3, so we add 3 and we get 6. When I is 4, the sum was already 6, so 6 plus 4 is 10. When I is 5, the sum was already 10, so we add 10 and get 15. So this is sort of what's happening with the sum. Now you might want to say, well, I want to go ahead and I want to get 10. So I'm going to say less than or equal to 10, and we should get 55 here if my math is right. And there you go. So this is the sum, and this is the counter. They're different. The accumulator will add up the prior number. The counter won't, right? The counter just always adds the same amount. So that's how that works. So I hope you understand the difference between what an accumulator is. This is the accumulator, and what a counter is. They're very different. And we went ahead and we just, got our current text and put it in the text box, or text area we should say, and there you go. There is something else you can do to check out the variables. We're going to do a quick little thing on this, and then I'm going to do a separate video on this. So what we can do right here is put a little red dot, okay? Now we're going to go to debug, and you're going to go to debug file, okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to click this, and we're going to see a green arrow right here. Okay, and you have to make sure you're in your variables. So we have I0. Okay, and we don't see anything else. Why? Well, we're not in the loop yet. You see how this green counter is at 88, and we're not in the loop yet? We press this one right here. If we roll over, we press this one, and watch what this does. This green arrow, this one, step into F7, will take us to this line, okay? Now, you'll notice that if we step again, we now have current text. And what is it? It's a string, and what's in it? Just quote, quote. There's nothing in it, right? Because it's empty. Let's go down another line. That'll also be quote, quote. Current text too, because we just created it. That's also quote, quote. Okay? Let's go down another line. I++. Watch what happens to I here. So right now, I is 0. Watch what happens when I click this and I go to the next line. I just became 1. It just increased by 1, right? Now, why did it increase by 1? Because this. Now, sum is 0. Watch what happens when I click the button, or just click F7. Sum now becomes 1. So now I'm going to hit, watch this pointer. It's going to check, is I less than 10? It's not, so it's going to hop up to line, I think it'll hop up to 92. Yep, right to 92. It'll go, the pointer will go right back there. And watch what happens to current text. That now is I equals 0/n. So that /n will tell it to go to the next line. And the other one, let's go ahead and go to the next one, will be sum equals 0. Okay, now I goes to 2, and sum goes to 3, because sum was already 1, and 1 plus the 2 is 3. Right? Now we'll go back up to here, and you'll notice, okay, you get this. I equals 0/n. I equals 1/n. Right, now our sum is 0, 1. Right? Now and the I is going to go to 3, and now our sum is at 3, so it's going to say 3 plus I. I is 3, so our sum will go to 6. All right, let's go another iteration. So we're going to do this. So if we look at I, our I is going to go to 4. Our sum is currently 6, so 6 plus 4, and we're going to get 10. All right, and now let's look at what string current text here is. I equals 0-n, I equals 1-n, I equals 2-n, I equals 3-n. So this thing will continue to go until it's 10. So if I just hold down F7 for a little while, 7, we're not done yet. Okay, I finished. But you get the idea of how to use that debugger. It's a really, really powerful tool, and it'll help you kind of understand your programs. So I hope you sort of understand how to use a debugger, how to place this thing called a breakpoint, what it does, the difference between an accumulator and a counter, and how to use a JText area to get new lines.